Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Gators Power Systems is the area's leading Kohler standby generator solution, specializing in maintenance, repair, and installation on all major brands, from gas to diesel and 2kW to 2000. Home or commercial, our team has you covered. Our factory certified technicians and installers are highly trained to provide response and repair when you need it the most. We service what we sell, period. Trust the Gen Gators, where we sink our teeth into service.
I'll start off by introducing myself, and I'll ask Robbie and Naomi to stand if you don't mind. My name's Travis Terrebonne. About 30 days ago, Robbie called me and said, I got this idea for an event, and it took about 5 minutes for us to get our heads together and realize that we were going to make it happen and that we were going to do it on June 1st because it's opening day of hurricane season. And I've been doing community events for 20 years here, maybe longer, and it blows me away how resilient this community is and how much we rally together to support things like this. So we put this together in 30 days. I hope you enjoyed the food. The contractors that are here, thank you so much for showing up on such short notice. If you haven't met everybody, we have vendors from every category. We have municipalities here that showed up. We have law enforcement. We have parish government. We have Port Commission, both new and retired, levy districts. So any questions you have in preparation for storm season, this is the room to ask. No question is a dumb one. So please grab somebody by the shirt who can help you with something that you have struggled with or that you may want to prevent in the future. So I want to give a round of applause. If y'all could stand, please, and clap for Robbie and Naomi for putting this together in such short notice.
So first of all, thanks again to Robbie and Naomi for putting this on. Every year we struggle with how to talk about hurricane season, right? For a vast majority of us in the room, and I'm looking across the room, and you guys are just a little bit older than I am, some of you are. So we remember the Betsies of the world, the Andrews. But for some of the younger folks in the room, when I was 6, I guess, is when Andrew hit. And between that and Katrina, there wasn't a whole lot. Katrina wasn't really that bad for us here locally. Then we went through Gustav and Ike, Katrina, Rita, all of the other little storms that popped up. And I know Wendell's here, who's the guru of hurricanes. And Wendell, we appreciate you coming. But for a lot of us, it's hard to think about what a storm prep is like. And then here comes Hurricane Ida in 2021, right? And just ravages the entire community. So doing something like this and really talking about how to prepare for it, but then what do we do after? So I'm really thankful that we have so many vendors in here, from building suppliers to shutters to everything else that you're going to need after, or hopefully you won't need after, right? Whether it's plumbing or HVAC or anything like that, or a complete rebuild, unfortunately, that we have people in the room who can do this, right? So I again want to encourage you to visit each one of these booths, talk to the vendors who are here about, hey, what happens if my air conditioner gets blown away, right? What if I come back and I have a special needs person in the house, an elderly mom and dad, and I need power for an oxygen machine? You may need a generator. It's those type of things we want to think about now, right? And in some cases, you can pull some of this off before we get to the height of hurricane season, which is the middle of August through the end of September. So if you need a generator, now's kind of the time to do it, right? Why I put one on my house a couple of weeks ago. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate that, by the way. But now's the time to really think about that stuff. Do you really want to put shutters in your home? Do you have a new home, right? I'm looking at my new neighbor across the street, right? It's time to think about those sorts of things. But on top of all this, the physical stuff, right? It's what do we do to prepare ourselves? And a lot of what we learned from Hurricane Ida and working with our emergency preparedness staff was things that we didn't think about. We're getting into the climate change era, and whether you want to talk about climate change or not, we're seeing storms that are forming more rapidly, more intensely, and quicker, which cuts down on the amount of time that we actually have to prepare for that sort of thing. And as I've learned from Wendell, the old 5-day forecast was that the Navy fleet needed 5 days to move out of whatever harbor or marina they were in, and that's how that came to be. But again, when you think back to Hurricane Ida and went from what we thought was going to be a Category 2 or a Category 3, on a Friday, maybe hitting somewhere between Morgan City and Terrebonne, which was going to be for us another Andrew type situation, to Friday afternoon getting that phone call and those guys saying, hey, Arch, look, it's going to be a Category 4, maybe a Category 5, and it's going to run right over you. So what do you do in those situations? So what we like to preach a lot, and what you're going to hear, I think everybody up here say, is get that game plan now. Think about what you're going to do. Think about how you're going to secure your house. Think about how you're going to secure your family, right? If you're leaving, where are you going, right? Where's that storm setting up? Are you going left and going west? Or are you going right and going east? Depending on where the trajectory of that storm hits, how far north are you going to go? And then for you business guys in the room, and the reason that Eric's set up over here with our laptop at the parish table is how are you going to get back? If you're in one of the sponsor booths around the room, or if you're in an industry that works for the port, or one of those critical infrastructures, sign up for our tier reentry program so that when we do call that evacuation, if we have to, once the storm is over and it's safe, hopefully 24 or so hours after the storm hits, you guys can come back and start the process of helping us rebuild, because that's the key part, right? Is we want to get operations back up and running as quickly as we can to keep people here. We don't want people to plug up and move and leave because schools aren't open or their house is destroyed or they can't get back to work. We want people back here as quick as we can. And I got to give a lot of credit to the sheriff's office and Sheriff Weber after Hurricane Ida for getting people back here in an orderly way to where we could work. The second part of that is once you do come back, stick to where you are. One of the big issues we saw after Hurricane Ida was people trying to move around after the hurricane. You got to think of all the operations that we're doing, right? From Chet and the Port Commission guys trying to clear off the road to get people back to food, trying to get industry back up and running, to us just getting trees and limbs and power poles off the road, to the energy coming back in and trying to get those power poles re-erected to get power back on to the residents and the businesses. So when you think about that traffic nightmare just in and of itself with the agencies walking around, the sheriff's office trying to keep people safe, trying to keep our property safe and not, hopefully things don't get looted. Or if it does, they catch them very quickly and send them up to Thibodaux. We want to clear the roads as quick as we can. So think about that when you're coming back as well. When you come back, if you're coming back from an evacuation standpoint, come back with stuff that you need to survive for a couple of days, right? Don't come back with just a dirty suitcase full of clothes and think water's going to work, your power's going to be on, and you go to Rouse's or Walmart and get what you need, because that's probably not going to be the case. We're going to have 3 or 4 days of no power, depending on where you are, depending on where the storm hits. And then, again, the severity of Hurricane Ida, we went in some places, especially in South Lafourche, almost 4 weeks without power and a couple of weeks without water, which was huge for us. So think about where you're going. Think about how you're going to get there. Are you getting on one of our buses and going to the mega shelter in Monroe or Alexandria? If you are doing that, do you have a pet? Do you have an elderly family member? If you do have a pet, what are you doing with that pet? Because you can't take it with you. How are you going to get to the ag building in Raceland to drop off that pet? So think about that. And then additionally, how are you going to stay in contact with things while you're going? So make sure you bring some type of charging device. You have your phone already charged up. You can listen to the stuff coming out on our Facebook page and our social media pages, as well as the major news networks and things like that. Always remember that where you're going, if you're going to one of our shelters, you need at least 3 days of food, medicine, water, bedding to get through that initial point. And then we deal with our friends at the Red Cross and people like that who come in after to help kind of staff those shelters if you need to. Again, if you have any special needs, either children or parents, make sure you have those medications for your families. And then make sure you have some cash on you, right? Because where you're going, or when you come back, credit card machines may not be operating. So hit that ATM before you come back. Even if you have to pay that $2 or $3 fee, make sure you come back with some cash if you're able to make sure that's working. If you visit our booth, Eric has some magnets out there with all of our pertinent numbers. If you need to get in touch with the EOC or one of the sheriff's office or Harbor Patrol or one of our other municipalities or their police departments, that information's on there. The pamphlet that I'm kind of cheating off of up here has all this information on it as well about how to get that game plan, where to go and what to do. And look, guys, the key part is always just to pay attention. Don't get wrapped up in, as much as I love our media partners, especially the New Orleans stations, don't get wrapped up in the cones of error and those sorts of things, right? What we put out, what the sheriff's office put out, what the Port Commission puts out, what the state puts out, and I know Director Jacques Thibodeau will be here later on this afternoon to talk to you from GOSEP, and I'm really, really pumped that he's actually coming down. Typically, we don't get the actual GOSEP director down here, but Jacques' a Thibodeau native, former U.S. Marshal, National Guard guy, and went up to serve Governor Landry in Baton Rouge. But he's going to be here to talk to you about that stuff, too. Did you tell me I got to wrap it up already? Come on, man. Jesus Christ. You gave a politician a mic, bro. What you thought was going to happen? Right, I know. Okay, I'm going to shut up. I'm trying not to take too much of Wendell's time. I learned from him. But just make sure you get that game plan. Jacques going to give you some good information as well this afternoon about how to do that. But just make sure you know where you're going and what you're coming back to, and be ready for it. So thank you all for being here again. God bless you, and God bless Lafourche.
So in the interest of responsible parenting, if any of you see a little girl wearing a pink tutu looking for her daddy, that would be me. So kind of connect us together. I'm sure you're all familiar with the iconic movie, The Wizard of Oz, Julie Garland, right? And the Scarecrow and the Lion and the Tin Man and all go to see the wizard, and they're trying to get home, trying to get a heart, trying to get different things. And the wizard sends them on all these perilous journeys, right? And finally, they get through everything they're supposed to get through, and they're facing the wizard, and they're all expecting to get what they wanted. You know, one wants a heart, one wants a brain. She wants to go back to Kansas. And lo and behold, the dog Toto runs up to where the wizard is, and he takes the curtain and he pulls the curtain away, and everyone sees that the real wizard is just a simple man, right? And I tell you that because what I want to talk today is a little bit about what's behind the curtain. So this is like the Toto speech, right? And I'm going to talk about what we do in law enforcement as a sheriff's office, individually and then collectively working with other units of local government. So once we hear that the potential of a storm is coming our way or could come our way, we have a phased-in plan. Phase one of our plan is basically the alert phase. And we tell everybody at the sheriff's office, hey, listen, we're in phase one, so don't take a vacation, don't take any time off, get ready. If this thing is coming our way and we move into phase two or phase three, we're going to be all hands on deck. So that means go to your house and do what every one of you do and what we do. Get your own stuff prepared first and foremost, because you're not going back to your house, most of you. And then the agency has to do the same thing. We have to make sure all of our equipment, all of our buildings, all of our supplies, everything that we utilize, communications, chainsaws, you name it, in an emergency hurricane response is in working order, and we know where it's at, and we've tested it. And then we get the inmates out to the barns, because they're going to start filling out sandbags for people who come and help themselves to sandbags, and they're going to be doing a multitude of other responsibilities. Those are all the things you don't see and really have a need to see, but I think it's important that you know what goes on in that regard. While those things are going on internally for the sheriff's office, and we're preparing, all of us, every one of us who has a responsible governmental function, NGO, business function, are making critical decisions. There are meetings. It used to be meetings face-to-face in buildings like this with representatives of the fire department, of the municipalities, the local and state government, OEPs, school, Nichols, municipalities, courts, medical, EMS, levy district, port commission, Grand Isle. All of those people would come together, Red Cross, and we would start talking about the decisions we have to make, because every decision has implications for everyone else. Like, when does school let out? When will the buses be on the road to not interfere with an evacuation if we need one, if school is in? Where are they going to shelter? What about the declaration of emergency? Now we do a lot of those meetings through Zoom and so on and so forth, but we're constantly, vigilantly planning. It's like a chess game, strategically looking at, if the storm does this, when is Grand Isle going to evacuate? Because they have to get out first. What about St. Charles, Terrebonne? We have to realize that all of those things go in there so we can start, and the parish president, of course, making decisions like declarations of emergency, which carry certain legal consequences. That declaration is important from a business standpoint because they got to shut down. They got to let their workers go. And if we shut them down too soon and they can't get up and running, they've lost a lot of money and they're not going to be as cooperative next time, like the Bayou cried wolf. As much effort and time, as much brain power goes into the decisions, they're never perfect. You know why I know that? Because you go to social media and you will see what idiot decided to do this. Or you'll see what a great idea this is. I want to compliment you. But there's a lot of things that you would really never understand or have a reason to know that go on behind the scenes. So in our sheriff's office, now we're going to move in from this planning phase to the implementation phase. The first thing we do is we more than double our workforce because we cancel all days off. Every employee who is considered an essential employee is a person who is sworn as a deputy, as a correctional officer, as a detective, as a school resource officer. 85% of our workforce are sworn employees. They don't go nowhere. The other 15% can evacuate. They're civilian staff. But the 85% of those people, they are on shifts. We double up. We have a gold shift for the daytime and a blue shift for the nighttime. So we have probably 75, 80, 100 people working throughout the parish during the time that we're in implementation. We're also strategically locating staff and equipment. We have a long parish. We need deputies and response vehicles in South Lafourche, in Valentine, in Central Lafourche, in Bayou Blue, in Ward 6, Thibodaux, Lockport, Raceland. So we have various strategic locations, and we partner, like with the Port Commission. We share staff with them at their buildings. And then what's going to happen after that, we are going to wait for the impact. And when the storm impacts, the hurricane impacts, there comes a point where we suspend all patrolling. We suspend putting people out in harm's way. And that is a decision that differs for the fire department because they have larger trucks in the ambulance district than us. If there is an emergency during a storm, we will evaluate it on a case-by-case basis. And if it's one where the risk of harm to the officers responding is greater than the possibility of saving someone's life, we're not going to respond. We simply don't ethically and morally have that obligation. But if we can, and we often do, I can't think of a time that we have not responded, but I do reserve the right to say there may be a situation where it's just too treacherous to respond. And that's why the evacuation phase and having the plan is so important. Because if you could have evacuated, but you chose to stay, for whatever reason, you're in harm or you get harmed, your family gets harmed, first responders get harmed or killed because of a decision that you made that really was not a logical decision. The real work starts, as Archie mentioned, after the storm passes, because the storm event is a couple of hours. Now, the Ida was a lot of hours because it was a very slow storm, but most storms get through in a couple of hours. That's where the sheriff's office and the emergency staff are first out. Before the winds die down, we are starting to assess. We're assessing safety hazards, which are critical. Those are the most important things that we want to assess, like power lines, buildings that might go down, roads that are broken down, or bridges, so on and so forth, anything that is life-threatening. We're also establishing communication, because that is a big factor in responding, establishing communication and opening roads so that we can start to bring in the people that need to bring in initially, to get the water back on grid, to get the electrical grid back, to get the hospitals up and running so that we can repopulate. And it's always been, and Archie mentioned he was 6 years old when Hurricane Andrew struck. I was in my second month as sheriff. I was a brand new sheriff when Hurricane Andrew struck. First hurricane we ever worked. Our goal then, and our goal throughout every hurricane, continues to be the same. We want people who have evacuated to repopulate as soon as it's safely possible. And that's why we work on eliminating hazards and opening roads and doing what Archie says, get there, evaluate, because everything that you left behind, you want to see what it's like. You want to come in and see if you need to start salvaging, if you need to start making repairs. And we find that we have such a resilient community of people that work together that the first thing they do is they take care of what's essential to them and their family. And as soon as the pile is on the side of the road and they're finished in their yard, they're going to the neighbor. And if there's an old lady or an elderly couple across the street, they're going there next. Our community enhances, and it's a force multiplier in recovery because of the way the philosophy of the way we live. So when you leave, understand one, we're going to get you back absolutely as quick as we can. Don't think you'll be stuck at a long, long line at a checkpoint waiting 20 hours. When we tell you come, we're ready to get you back. The second thing we do is a lot of areas are dark. Electricity inevitably goes out. This time it went out parish-wise, but sometimes it's in isolated areas. We have those extra deputies running around with lights on all night long for the looters. And for the first couple of days, you really don't see anybody around there. But we are very, very proactive and very, very aggressive in the looting. So we want you to know that we're very diligent in our nighttime patrol. We literally have a policeman almost on every corner, and we constantly patrol. For those first 5 days, it's really just us and the local people. And then the people start bringing in relief. And it could be sooner, but then we start getting agencies from other states, from other parishes that are coming to help out. We're starting to get supplies and food and accommodations. And we, at some point, have to give our people a break. And so somewhere between days 10 and 20 or day 10 and 14, we start trying to give them some time to go back and assess their own property, deal with any issues they have with their homes, their families, their life. And then we start getting assistance from other agencies. But we continue a very, very high presence and vigilance. And the other thing that you need to know is that every storm brings unique challenges, and it's an evolutionary process of learning. What we did differently for Ida that we had not done in previous storms is we had such a massive amount of roof damage that there were nails everywhere, and we were literally getting flat tires by the minute. And units were being down, and people were response vehicles and personal vehicles. So we put together a truck, a van, with an air compressor, with a jack, and with all the tools and equipment that we needed to fix tires. And we had them just riding down the road. And anytime there was a flat, it could be a bicycle or it could be an 18-wheeler. If we could plug it or get them running, we got it plugged and got them running. And that took a lot of the congestion away. And then the second thing we ended up with is you get so much commodities that all of a sudden you got more than you can ever imagine. And you got things you can't use. And so we're filling up a warehouse with food, with clothes, with cleaning supplies. And by this time, everybody has what they need. So we call it Operation Milkman. We took trailers and trucks and we loaded them up with everything we could put on a trailer. And when the inmates and the driver went into the communities that are in the outreaches of the parish, like the Zalmans and Pornishan and different places, and we literally just put commodities out there and gave them to whoever wanted them so that we could not let those things just sit in a warehouse and go bad. So I'll tell you, I just hope that you understand, because there's a lot that goes on, and the people that are part of that process are all people that live here, and they have a vested interest in their homes, in their businesses, in their families, in their schools, in their communities, in their churches. And the decisions we make are decisions that we genuinely believe, with the collective wisdom of everyone, is in your best interest. But we always appreciate critique, and we always look to improve. One of the things that we have improved, and I'm probably out of time, my time is not working, I can't see, so if you can tell me if I'm out of time, winding down, is the accuracy of forecasting has improved. You used to get those forecasts, and you'll still get some weird ones, where you would look at that spaghetti model, and they had it going everywhere from California to New York, and you really couldn't get any kind of good idea about how fast it was going to develop and whether it was going to hit. We've gotten a lot better with that. We've started to use Zoom and other ways of meeting and communicating and sending out information, and we've adapted over time as the situation's adapted. And so I'm going to close with one quick story. Sometimes the least fierce storm is the one that could be the worst, could cause the most damage. Wendell can tell me when there was a tropical storm, Cindy, that was coming in through Lafourche. In 2005, this was like a do-nothing storm, right? Just a tropical storm. We don't have to engage all of this blue and yellow. We got just a few extra officers. We out riding. Well, if I understand correctly, at the last couple of minutes or within a short period of time, Cindy intensified and actually became a Category 1 hurricane. So I am there with the chief deputy and all of these deputies, and we're in Leeville. And a whole bunch, or maybe 7 or 8 of these big steel shrimp boats break from the mooring. And the Bayou is rushing probably 30 or 40 knots. I mean, it is clipping. And these boats are all tied together, and there's no way you can stop them. And they're all going down the Bayou, and they have the big outriggers up. And they had the old Leeville Bridge, not the new one. And the whole cluster of boats bang into the new Leeville Bridge. And then 1 or 2 of them sink, and eventually they get drug underneath the bridge, and the electricity goes out, and it's black, and we don't know whatever happened. Some boats, I think, were recovered all the way in Grand Isle. And so after that, Cindy settled down, right? No more wind, no more rain. And the parish president shows up about an hour later, and we're still there. And so I decide, as the sheriff, I'm going to explain everything what happened in detail. I'm going to walk the parish president through this whole process. And I take her to the point where we're standing on the dock and looking at the Leeville Bridge where the boats went through. And I turn and I walk and I step off the dock and then I'm underwater. And I got a raincoat on my head, over my head. I got boots and clothes. And when I finally pop up, lucky enough, there was a piling that I could basically embrace and bear hug for my life. And I held onto that piling until they could find a ladder and get me out of the water. And I tell you that because you never know, We didn't have a death with Ida. Ida was the worst storm in the history of Lafourche Parish, perhaps, and it did not a single death recorded. But something as simple as a tropical storm, which turned into a Category 1, can bring perils that you never expected. So with that, we appreciate this. Thank you all so much, Robbie, and everyone involved in this, Travis, for getting this together. Thank the vendors that are here and the members of the government. I think it's a very useful process. We want to learn and get feedback, and I'll be happy to respond to questions at the appropriate time.
Let's give another round of applause to Robbie and Naomi for putting this together, and Travis. And I hope you enjoy the jambalaya today. I know Travis paid for everything, but my team from the Port Commission put that together, so give a round of applause to them. Also, I would be remiss if you don't know, the Port Commission, I work for an elected board of commissioners. My board is an elected Port Commission. We answer to the community, the 10th Ward of Lafourche Parish. Although we're only in the 10th Ward, I think we impact the entire parish and the entire region and the state and the national economy. So that's what's important about Port Fourchon. I think that's why I was asked to come speak here today. But we have some commissioners here. I want to recognize Mr. Mike Colley, Mr. Reggie Leday, Mr. Tom Pete back there, 3 of our 9 commissioners. Thank you all for being here. Look, they impress upon me and our staff of 45 employees to just get the job done every day, okay? And when I talk about 45 employees, the majority of our employees, we have 23 harbor policemen. We have another 9 maintenance workers. So the majority of our people are boots on the ground, making sure things are safe and secure in the port and in the 10th Ward of our parish. The rest of us are admin staff, just making sure the business of the port is running. What's critical about our port is that we have 90 different tenants on 140 leases, okay? That's a lot of people. 5,000 people working on the port at any given day. About 15,000 people rely on the port to get offshore at any given time. So that's critically important that we get people in and out of the port to get out of your way when it's time for you to evacuate or do the things that you need to do. So the timing is important. So when I think about the port, when I think about Lafourche Parish, and I think about 4 terms. I think about preparation, I think about collaboration, I think about resiliency, and I think about communication, okay? When it comes to preparation, here at the port, everybody talks about hurricane plan. We don't use the term plan, we use the term guide. Why? Because every storm's different, and plans are usually rigid. You have to follow them. A guide, you can kind of manipulate as things. We all know that hurricanes, no one hurricane is the same. They're all different. You have to kind of manipulate timing. You have to manipulate things so that you can respond appropriately, okay? Now think about collaboration. I can tell you, I've been working for the Port Commission for almost 19 years. September 12th will be 19 years I've been working for the port. I've been the port director since January of 2010, so a little over 14 years. And I have never seen a group of people right now that we have in this parish that work so closely together. We're all friends, we all care about each other, and we're all moving in the same direction. I think you need to be proud of what you have in this parish right now. And not just from public entity leadership. Look at what we have here today, right? This is community leadership. And I think we all need to be proud of what we have here and continue to push forward and work every day. We talk about resiliency. get just a little story about Hurricane Ida and its direct impact on Port Fourchon. That day, we have now the National Weather Service will tell you that we had a Category 4 storm, right? I will tell you that it was a Cat 5 in Port Fourchon. Okay, we had a vessel. Y'all know the vessels that we have in Port Fourchon. They are technologically advanced pieces of equipment. We had 178 mile per hour straight line winds and 220 mile per hour gusts in Port Fourchon. Y'all, we took it on the chin, okay? This community took it on the chin, but we're resilient people because we're all here, right? Port Fourchon, I can tell you, after the storm, so right, it hit on a Sunday into a Monday. Come Tuesday morning, we still were not able to get down to the port. We were still wondering, what happened down there. Our current governor, then Attorney General Jeff Landry, called me up Tuesday morning and said, "Hey, Chet, have you seen the port yet?" I said, "No, sir. We have not been able to get down there." And he said, "I'm coming to pick you up." Comes pick me up in a helicopter at our airport in the Galliano. We go fly over the port, right? I was scared, right? I didn't know what in the world we were going to find. But when we got down there and I saw every tank on its base, nothing in the middle of the channel, obvious damage, right? No doubt there was a lot of damage. But I said, when I landed back on the ground, I said, "We're going to be okay. Let's get to work." And the entire staff of our port got to work getting things back moving. We stage equipment inside the levee system at the Emergency Storm Harbor Marina, thanks to Grand Isle Shipyard, who always puts a big bulldozer right inside the levee system. We clear the road, and we're not waiting on anybody to come, right? We take care, just like you do at your homes. We put on our steel-toe boots and we get to work, and we're moving and clearing the road. We need to get our economy back up and running, right? So that's important for us. So we continue to do that. We're clearing things out, and we were able to, within 5 days of a Cat 5 storm hitting Port Fourchon, have at least one dock loading vessels. And within 9 days, every foot, 88,000 linear feet of waterfront in Port Fourchon, we were able to load vessels. That is amazing, okay? That's what resiliency is. So thank you. We take pride in doing those things because everybody's working together. There's always communication, right? So when I talk about communication, I'm gonna use my phone. I'm gonna pull up portfourchon.com, right? Just because if you don't have a business in the port or you don't work in the port, that doesn't matter. Portfourchon.com, if you go on that website today, right? Look, we sent out a message this morning to all of our customers and everybody that's on our page, on our mailing list, that today's storm season, right? We're ready to go for storm season. You get on our website, portfourchon.com, there's a big red button. It says weather and storm information. Anybody can use it. You click weather and storm information, and you have our list of during a storm threat. You can click our weather and storm info, and you can get the presentation that we gave to our customers, to the tenants of the port on this past Wednesday. Okay, so all of Lafourche Parish government's presentation, the port's presentation, the National Weather Service presentation about hurricane preparedness, what to expect, is all on there. We have all the information about our storm phases if you're interested. There's also contact information. Use our website as a source of all the different information that you can find, from the parish to the sheriff's office to state information to federal information. Portfourchon.com has all that information in one place. The levee district's information, it's all there. Use it as an information finding location, okay? So I just wanted to make sure, again, portfourchon.com, use it, okay? And then I'll finish with this, a quick story. If it doesn't matter what you think about national politics, right? Whenever you have a storm like this, if you recall, on the Friday after Hurricane Ida, the president came to Galliano, landed at our airport in Galliano, and all of that spectacle that's involved with. The key thing to this is, ahead of a presidential visit, there's a lot of work, right? There's a lot of work that goes into it from security standpoint. So folks come in and they look at buildings, they look at the surroundings, and I have to tell you, there's nothing more proud when you have people who have never been down the bayou, have never been to this area of Louisiana, and they show up, and these are Secret Service members and folks like that are coming in, and they came down here and they said, I'll tell y'all what, we see disasters everywhere. We go to tornadoes and fires and hurricanes elsewhere. We have never seen, just riding through, a community working together, neighbor helping neighbor. You know, people in the front yards while they're driving down, seeing people picking up, you know, trees, cutting down trees, doing all the things necessary for us to get our lives back together. And I take pride in that. When they told us that, we didn't ask for that. We didn't solicit that information. They just offered, and they said, look, y'all are gonna be fine. We don't see this anywhere else. You guys here in Lafourche Parish are amazing people. So I just wanna tell y'all are amazing people, okay? We know what to do. We all work together and we get things going. So let's have a blessed hurricane season. Hopefully we're doing all of this for no reason, right? But we always know that we need to be prepared. Thank y'all.
So before I introduce our next speaker, I want to tell a quick story about it. Several years back, I'm flying for work, and I was in I don't know where I was headed, but I was sitting next to somebody from South Dakota, and she asked me where I was from. So I told her, you probably don't know where I'm from. So I said, I'm from La Rose. And so maybe 10, 20 seconds after that, she realized, oh, Lafourche Parish. So yes, I go to college in South Dakota, and I'm going to work for the Corps of Engineers, and we studied you guys' levee system on a national level. So raise your hand if you're in the room and you live in the 10th Ward and your house has never flooded. I mean, that's the vast majority of the room. And so without further ado, the man who's responsible for that and has led the parish and a team of distinguished people with the Greater Lafourche, the Levee District, I'd like to welcome Wendell Curall up to the podium, please. So go ahead and stay standing. We are going to present Mr. Wendell with something, the first annual Bayou Lafourche Storm Ready Expo 2024 hometown hero, Mr. Wendell Curall.
We had this unbelievable experience with Ida. The number one thing, nobody died. I mean, that was unbelievable. People, you know, this storm was tied for the fifth United States. It was the most powerful storm, tied with Laura, which hit 2 years before in southwest Louisiana, and 1856 storm that hit Ile-de-Nia off of Terrebonne. So this was an extremely powerful storm, something that had never been seen. And the work that was done, the thousands of decisions that our board members and our employees and the people we work with in the state and the federal government, all those decisions made the difference that we lost no lives. And, you know, the one thing that was, we have to be so thankful, our board is appointed by the elected officials in Lafourche Parish. And they have appointed people who weren't there for any other reason except to make sure we did everything we could to keep water out of people's homes. Every decision. And it didn't matter if that decision made everybody mad or made everybody happy. If it was the right thing to do, the board did it. I had to mention, you know, we had, two presidents that I spent most of my time working for. I did this for about 43 years. Leon Terrio was the first president. He hired me in 1980. He died in 1999. Last time I visited him, he had cancer. His wife. And I said, look, you know, Leon's still president. I don't want him to have to worry about thinking about that stuff, you know. And so, she went close to his ear and said, look, if you want to drop off. And I couldn't hear it. I was in the same room, but he was really weak. And he told her, no, it's too important. Okay. And then Ronald Colley took over this morning. They buried Ronald. These guys, they lost friends, lost business by doing the right thing. And all of those things resulted in us not flooding for Ida. And so you look at it, and then you think about something this big, no one person does it. Not only the board, but all of our taxpayers, when they voted against their pocketbook to give us money to help protect them. Without that, the levees would have not been high enough for Ida. We talk about if you ever go down to Bayou, head on the 4-lane highway toward Grand Isle. When you get to the 4-lane highway in Golden Meadow, the levee comes right to the edge of the road. It was old Texaco dock, okay? That levee is 17 feet high. The debris line, we can't go in the middle of a storm when the wind's blowing 170 miles an hour. But we got out as soon as we could walk to our vehicles, because we tried 3 times to walk to our vehicles and we couldn't get to them. The wind was blowing so hard. But that levee is 17 feet high. The debris line tells us how high the water got. 17-foot levee, the water got this close to the top in Golden Meadow. You stand on that levee, and the levee is higher than the roofs of the houses. Okay? Now that comes to the other issue. We have not flooded since 1985. We hadn't had the system closed yet. We finally closed it in 1993. We have not had any surge flooding inside the system since 1985. That's supposed to be a good thing, but it's a little bit of a problem because people got too confident. I got to commend our fire department. They were getting calls. The houses, we got no flood water come in, all right? But the wind was knocking down houses. People were being trapped. And these fire department guys couldn't just stand there. It was killing them not to go help. And same thing, they had to work to try to get to their vehicles. But eventually, they commandeered a bus, they commandeered a backhoe, and they cleared the roads for them to go and help people. And they had hundreds of calls. They were able to get 51 people they picked up that were in houses that they were trapped in. And they formed a shelter in the middle of the storm at Galliano Junior High. That talks about people doing more than and risking their lives, but they shouldn't, But it took all of that. And the issue with it, and I asked them, I said, man, how many people? They said, look, there's a lot of people that stayed. Now, I've done emergency manager. I was emergency manager for the parish for a while. And I was there when we had Katrina. And I figured we had gotten out about 92, 93, 94%. And when you deal with hurricanes, you have no control. It controls you. You've got to react, and you don't know what it's going to do. So for Katrina, we got most of the people out. And that is the best way to handle a hurricane, is get out the way. Luckily for us, that storm, Katrina was going the same direction that Ida was. The only difference is that once it got south of the mouth of the Mississippi River, the Katrina just went due north. And so it gave the worst of that wind and water to Waveland, Mississippi, and those areas. The storm surge was 28 feet. You go to Waveland, when you get to the railroad tracks at the back of the town, it's 23 feet high. The water got over that, went another 6 miles till the elevated I-10 stopped it. If that storm had done and gone where Ida went, everything would have been flooded, and we would have probably, because Ida was a powerful storm, but the eye was only about 13, 14 miles wide. Katrina was 42 miles wide. So that water and that wind would have pushed and pushed and pushed. And I believe we would have had some flood waters go all the way to the edge of Thibodeau. That's a real possibility with storms. You just don't know. You just don't know. But it pushed 16 feet of water up against the levee system within a foot over about 30 miles. That could have gone in. And had it gone in, those 40% of those people, I guarantee you would have had hundreds of deaths. So the number one thing is that when the parish says evacuate, mandatory evacuation, leave. That's the number one thing I can say. I'm glad the levee did not its job, but more than its job. You know, the Corps of Engineers right now still says we can't handle it, a 10-year storm, and this was a 300-year storm. And the reason they didn't make it a Category 5 is because they didn't have the instrumentation that the National Weather Service, you know, they have instruments and they have it up 10 meters high. So the way they measure a hurricane is what the wind blows for 1 solid minute, what that speed is for 1 minute, 10 meters above the ground level. That's how they get the measurements. So we didn't have that. And that's why we didn't get, but absolutely the Category 4 that we had. And the thing is, again, nobody died. And really with the surge so high, all it took, I mean, we had houseboats, giant houseboats up on the levee. If we'd had one of those right where the water was maybe just kind of going on, it could have clipped the top and started a crevasse that could have happened. And then you get the 8 feet of water. And again, we could have had hundreds of people die. So, but you know, when you think about things, I mean, think about your children. You know, when you get in the middle of a storm, I've talked to people who stayed in storms and their houses broke down, and they, luckily, and this was, it was some people that were on the east side of Lake Pontchartrain, in that little area where I-10 goes, and they were hanging on trees, and luckily they were able to recoup the rest of the family and nobody died. But when the water gets in, it's pure luck whether you survive or not. It's not about how good you are. It's about how lucky you are. And you don't want to have your life depend on luck, you know. But again, I mentioned we accomplished something that was fantastic. It was great. I wake up every morning and I say, we still didn't flood. I just can't get over that the water got that high. Now, when the fire department got out and started doing their work, we had tried 3 times. We could not physically walk to our vehicles because the wind was blowing so hard. Because we wanted to check the pump stations and the floodgates, make sure nothing was broken, that if we could do something to help out the situation. But finally, when we heard the fire department had gotten there, well, we said, look, if they can walk and get out, we can get out. So we did. But my truck, I mean, a 2x6 just missed hitting it, but it got dented. There are more wrinkles on my truck than my face right now, you know. Back window was blown out. But and again, I had my guys, and they were staying at the hospital, separate from their families. And we go to the hospital because it's the biggest building. The roof blew off. My wife is on the North Shore. She sees on the internet the roof of the building blowing off. She's getting calls from the board members asking if we were okay, because that's where we go, because it's the biggest building. And they didn't find out if we were okay or not for 24 hours. About communications, we had none, 0. But all of these things are happening. You don't control it. And you know, you talk about, I still call it a plan, but we always know. They call it an emergency is because you can't control the situation. Your plans are there to give you an idea to do, but then you have to deal with the situation that's there, and your plan may not have anything about it. So there's always that flexibility. And you always have the plan because you think through what you can think through when something outside happens. But you know, the improvements that we did on our levee system, we went out, you know, it's nice to have the computer models, you know, it's nice to have a nice scientific paper to talk about what might happen, but nothing reflects reality like what? Reality. Okay, when Katrina hit, we sent my engineers that work for the South Lafourche Levee District, we sent them to Plaquemine Parish, we sent them to St. Bernard, we sent them to New Orleans. And then I got on the phone and I called to my counterparts in those places. What happened when you were there with the storm? You know, the managers in St. Bernard and in Plaquemine and New Orleans. And I got a true story. You know, you had this federal group that got put together to figure out what Katrina did and what you needed to do to improve it. And they were right on 2 of the 3 things about flood protection and levees. You know, they were right that walls, and a wall is not a levee. But what failed in New Orleans proper was walls. It wasn't levees. The levees held up. They were slightly over top. But the walls along the 17th Street Canal, and I believe it's either London Avenue or Orleans, those walls failed. So we have some walls in our system. So we knew we need to improve it. We did exactly what the Corps said about improving those things, and we started improving it immediately. The other thing they said is that the intersection with levees and walls, they had some erosions because the energy hitting that concrete or steel was deflecting all the way on the earthen part and actually had some water go around and cause some breaches there. So we agree with that. So we went back and started hardening by putting different types of structures to protect the edge of the wall as the levee connected with it. But the third thing we didn't agree with, they made a wholesale change on how you build levees. They said you have to have perfect dirt, and we looked, and I talked to the guys in St. Bernard, where this group that the president had appointed said that the levee broke before it went over the top. And they said no levee broke. They were overtopped, and the water coming down on the inside, gravity's pulling it down, and when the levee flattened out, it hits there, it swirls, and it eats the levee from inside out. In St. Bernard, there's a 14-mile levee. 7 of it got eaten out that way, but none of it broke because the water went through it and then it collapsed. And they made changes to make that not happen, but it didn't happen. So we didn't change how we built levees. And we've been criticized for doing that. But had we not done it, had we built it the way the Corps built it, which is extremely expensive because you're getting perfect material, our levees would have been about 5 feet lower. And 5 feet lower, we flood. People die. So it's always, when you say emergency, it's something that you can't plan for. You do what you can do. Hurricanes do crazy things. Hurricane Mitch was out in the Gulf of Mexico, out of Honduras and Guatemala. It stayed about 40 miles offshore for 4 days, going from a Category 4 to Category 5. Now, there's they don't have a delta like what we have. And the rainfall actually killed about 10,000 people. But I want you to understand, we don't live in a place, when a storm hits Florida or hits Texas, and I talked about we live in Mississippi, it does those things, but their geology is different from ours. I mentioned 23 feet in Wayland, Mississippi. That's within a half a mile of the beach. They get to 23 feet. We don't have 23 feet in Lafourche Parish. Nothing is 23 feet. We live on a delta, so when I started looking and studying, when I had the job, the only place I could find that had real hurricanes, it's not hurricanes, it's called typhoons, and it's in Bangladesh. So I started studying what happened when storms hit Bangladesh. Well, that delta is like our delta. It's very flat. And they had a storm in 1970. They lost 300,000 people. They had a storm in 1991, right after we had Andrew, and they lost another 100,000 because they didn't have communications. They didn't have an ability to get out the way. Since that time, they've built 1,200 buildings throughout coastal Bangladesh, and those buildings are raised above the normal flood height, and they can hold about 1,200 people, and that's just to keep them alive. And I was on a panel in Amsterdam with the people of Bangladesh, and they said, look, we had a storm, a really bad storm last year. We only lost 1,000 people. You don't hear about all that. Also, one thing that we don't think about, we had, I was on this panel with them. We had to put some of the problems we have, and I talk about the river levee. The river breaks, the levee breaks, we can have an issue. Rainfall with the storms, tornadoes, hurricanes. They had similar things, but then they had food. So I asked the guy, I said, what do you mean you got food as a hazard? He says, well, every night, half of the population doesn't know they're going to have food. You don't even kind of think about that stuff in how the rest of the people in other worlds. But we have to look at that to really understand what we need to do. But the number one message is we need to get out the way when the parish says there's a possibility that storm surge can enter your community. You get out the way, especially for the sake of your kids. You don't ever have that regret. That regret. But now I thought the sheriff's telling his story. There's a record that Eddie J. St. Marie, Hurricane Betsy, he had his raincoat on, got on the side of the bayou near the glow room, I think. The wind took him and threw him in the bayou. You know, he tells the story about how God just took him and put there, and only God got him out. But I guess that's a tradition of our sheriffs just taking a deep leap into the water, you know. But just, I guess, and that's really the main message, is that the community, it takes the community to get things done. Our taxpayers tax themselves. We're the highest tax people for flood protection work, because we don't get as much help as some other areas get. But we spend every penny because we understand that you got some people that buy their bread and their milk and they don't have a lot of money, and that penny comes to us. We honor it. We didn't never wasted a penny. And we were building levees for $4 to $10 a cubic yard, while in New Orleans they were building them for $60, $70, $100 a cubic yard. But the main message is listen and prepare as well as you can, and expect to have to do things that you wouldn't expect to do, you know. But I've been talking a long time, and other people are talking, and we don't get any questions or comments. We kind of direct how I give a talk, because I can do this like for 2 weeks, guys, you know.
Probably some expectations when you come to something like this, and some of you are probably thinking, you know, are you going to give me some type of step-by-step action plan or guide? The answer is yes. It's learning through the experiences of the most powerful storm that's hit the area in history. So listen from the professionals, the experts are in the room. So just hearing their stories, understanding what they went through, what you went through, what we went through as a community, is helping to forge my action plan, my decisions on what I would do with my family and my business just over the last 15 minutes has changed. So I hope you guys get something out of it. If you need written documentation, there's blue bags in the back. If you didn't get one on your way in, grab one on your way out. There's tons of written resources in there. If you want to form a written plan, because that's the way your brain works, we have more than enough resources back there for you. But being in the room with people like this who were around before, during, and after major storms, I just hope that expertise and that heartfelt, I guess you could say, scientific knowledge that these guys have over storms and how to weather storms, I hope they're just rubbing off on you like it is on me. So without further ado, our next speaker, you know, after Hurricane Ida, I was out in the community pretty quick. I remember it was a different kind of Labor Day weekend, if y'all don't remember what you were doing on September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and it was hot. And one of the faces I saw in the heat passing out donations right after, you know, even their own homes weren't livable, was the folks at Bless Your Heart nonprofit. So we are blessed to have them in our community. Jeray Ross and the board of directors are second to none. Elite professionals who care and have a heart for this community. So without further ado, Bless Your Heart, Ms. Jeray Jambon. Jara.
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you, Travis, for that introduction. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeray Jambon. I am from La Rose. After I went to law school, I opened up a law practice down the bayou, and not here to really talk about that aspect of my life, but I live in La Rose with my family, my husband, and I have 2 small children. In and about 2020, we founded Bless Your Heart nonprofit. I'm so thrilled that this event is happening in Lockport, because we have such a desire to extend some of the programs that we've implemented in the South Lafourche community, in the Central Lafourche community. And so we would love to work with some of you. So if you're interested in anything like that, please contact me after the event's finished. But Hurricane Ida was a huge, we can see now that God really had given us some tools that we needed early on in our organization's formation to assist us with hurricane preparedness. I want you to know we have no skill set. We are not politicians. We don't get paid. These are just things that we really love to do. And I want you to know it's not us, like it's you. So I love that y'all are the people who help us. Like, we identify needs but y'all are the ones who give us the donations. Y'all are the ones who come volunteer with us. Y'all are the people who really make the difference. So we just kind of get to facilitate that. I think, in speaking about hurricane preparedness, I would say my most important bit of advice is that you need to take care of yourself so that you can help take care of other people. The Bible says that it's important that we carry the burdens of our neighbors. And y'all, if that lesson is not just the overriding theme of the community and the parish in which we live, I can just think back to my childhood where neighbors or family members or friends just help my family carry a burden. And so we want to be that to people now. And, how can we do that? And so after the hurricane, we heeded Archie's advice. I have trust in him as a leader in this parish, and I just know that he and Chet and the sheriff are listening to the most educated people on this topic. And when he said, "You need to leave," my husband and I left. My daughter has epilepsy, and I don't want to be a burden to our first responders. If something would happen, they don't need to be on the road tending to me when there are other real emergencies going on, when I had an opportunity to leave. And so we heeded their advice and we left. And my husband's from New Roads, so we went to my in-laws. But immediately while we were there, we just were working as a board. I'd like to recognize my brothers here, Ross Jambon. He's also on our board of directors. He's a pretty good guy. But we were working while we were evacuated, talking to people. How can you get me supplies? How can you get me water? How can you get me food? Where are we going to even set up shop? Because we typically work very closely with the Lafourche Parish Fire District number 3, and all of their facilities were destroyed. And y'all, it's so important. We always say shop local, but you don't know what your local vendors really are doing for you. If it was not for Dufresne's Building Supplies, the awesome people over at Dufresne's, we would not have been able, within 6 days of Hurricane Ida, to be handing out tarps and food and water and diapers and baby formula. There were people sobbing in their vehicles in front of me, begging for food, begging for diapers, begging for tarpaulins. And if it was not for Paul and his family allowing us to just set up shop in his parking lot, and listen, we inconvenienced them all week long. So I know that was a burden for them, but y'all, it's organizations like that, it's companies like that put their own personal needs aside because they saw that we were addressing a need for the public, and that was going to benefit the public as a whole. And so in my opinion, when you have dollars to be spent at a building place, I'm shopping at Dufresne's because I know that they have our back every single day of the week. And I can say that for most of these organizations in here. When we don't just do hurricane preparedness, we have we help the community as a whole. So if there's a need, if there's an elderly couple who needs help with groceries, we have a community refrigerator in the South Lafourche community right now where you can bring your leftover food. We go buy new food and put it in that refrigerator. And anyone who is hungry, regardless of who you are, what circumstances you're in, you can go get food there at any time of the day. Those are the kind of projects that we implement. We sometimes help people build wheelchair ramps, or we'll help them pay their electrical bill. We'll help them bridge the gap getting into a new apartment and pay their, their first month's rent or their deposit. And I can tell you that I'm just looking around the room, and nearly every organization in here has assisted us in some way by going out and helping someone set up an electrical pole for a camper that's needed, or I'm seeing Miss Trixie and Mr. Chatter just walking in. They have been so instrumental, y'all, when we need a portalet for something, or we need assistance with somebody, we need a camper for a homeless family. They've been people who have stepped up and out of their own pockets are assisting us. So when it comes time to post-hurricane mayhem and you see that you need to be using a company to help you get back on your feet, I hope that you really consider the organizations who are represented here today, because they're not just here to make a dollar. Like, they're behind the scenes with us, helping us help you. And so just, I would just strongly consider that, y'all, consider hiring them, or consulting with them in your post-storm life. I kind of prayed about a few things I would talk to you about, and one of them being this. When you are away and you are evacuated, okay, so let's pretend that's our fact situation. There's a couple of things that I did not realize we needed, but one of those things was gasoline. So what was going on is that after the storm, we didn't have gas in our cars to even be able to get to Dufresne's Building Supplies. So you can't help your family members if you didn't adequately prepare for yourself. And so, guys, listen to what these people are saying. Like, get your extra medication, have a stash of money that you can use for evacuation. And so you need to be taking those steps to prepare on the front end, because you can't be helpful to anyone on the back end. Another thing is just post-hurricane, if y'all would just follow us on our Facebook page, it's Bless Your Heart Nonprofit. We always need help volunteering. After we did our supply distribution at Dufresne's, we did several more at the LaRose Civic Center, and we need help. Not just on the days that we distribute to the public, but we need help on the days prior, organizing groceries, organizing toothpaste, organizing tarpaulins and cleaning supplies and garbage bags. Yes, it's hot. Yes, we have no electricity, but y'all, the look of relief on the public's faces when we can help them is just priceless. Like, I 10 out of 10 know this is the calling that God has on my life. And so I would just ask that you pray in your as preparing for the storm, you need to pray about what is God calling you to do during that time. Like, you need to prepare for your family, but y'all, how can you help your neighbors? How can you help the people in your community? We all can play a part, and we all do play a part. I'm going to close with this, just saying that I know these men have come up here and they've talked about the wonderful things that they've done. And listen, we would not be here if it was not for people like Mr. Wendell Curall. I just feel forever indebted to his pioneering work that he's done in our community. I'm so in awe that they would even ask me to talk after you, Mr. Wendell. But guys, like, Chet is so important, and Archie is so important, and you need to spend time praying for these men, because after the storm, when we weren't sure how we were going to get supplies in, Chet, without hesitation, let us use his airport, and we had hundreds of thousands of pounds of supplies flown into the Galliano airport that provided supplies for our community. And y'all, if it wasn't for his willingness to go on a limb and trust somebody like me, we would not have been able to serve the public. So guys, they don't just fulfill the roles that they need to fulfill, like when they take their oath for their job. They really go above and beyond. And so I just have confidence in them. I just ask that you continue to pray for them. I pray that they seek the Lord's guidance in their decision making. And guys, if you want to assist our organization, or you want to start something similar, please meet with me and let me know. This is not, we're not looking for the glory. Like, all glory to God. And if y'all can do similar things in your own communities, then I want to help you do that, because that's the most important thing. So I appreciate y'all so much. Robbie and Naomi, I appreciate y'all so much, and y'all have a blessed day.
I've been in a lot of rooms with Jure, and every time she speaks, I get choked up. Hey, just to echo what she said, there are tons of national charities, and if you have some that you support, continue doing so. But if you want to put your donor dollars to work to where you could see the fruit of your investment, Bless Your Heart nonprofit is the place to do it. It will stay here, and it will be boots on the ground. And she mentioned something about Lockport Community Center. That was strategic. We originally tried to do this in the 10th Ward, and both Robbie and I said right out of the gate, we have to move it north because Archie uses this, I know, in his campaign. We are one Lafourche. Whether we agree on that or not, Monday through Friday, today, we are one Lafourche. So we intentionally came to Lockport for that reason.
All right, and I'd like to thank everybody for having me today. As mentioned, my name's Charles Canan. I'm the Region 3 Public Health Emergency Response Coordinator, and I'd like to thank Robbie and Naomi Guidry for putting this all together. Also, Lafourche Parish government and our state and federal partners as well that help us every day on preparing for emergency events. So Region 3 Public Health, we covered 7 parishes: Assumption, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. James, St. John, St. Mary, and Terrebonne Parish. I come from a background of EMS and fire services, a paramedic in New Orleans, Galliano, and continue to work in Grand Isle as well. So we're recognizing the start of hurricane season today. Of course, NOAA has put out our predictions, and it sounds pretty bad, but I think we all know one bad storm is what really makes a difference. And we constantly see that disasters are social events. Everybody chooses to live in a particular place because that's where their mom raised them, or that's where their kids go to school. And so you settle down, you have some ties, you have some social ties, and a disaster doesn't need to a hurricane comes through doesn't need to affect you necessarily. It hits your mother-in-law's house, and next thing you know, mother-in-law's in your house. And so there's that. I didn't realize public health's role in emergency preparedness when I started this role. It comes back from 9/11, the anthrax attacks, provided for a couple grants, the Public Health Emergency Preparedness and City Readiness Initiatives grants. Public health oversees that, and that helps states and local parishes have a little extra funding for emergency response. And so public health's main goals through hurricane season are evacuation and sheltering. We especially look after those with access and functional needs and those that require additional support as well. So if we were to see a hurricane enter the Gulf, our policymakers would begin their meetings and possibly consider some evacuation orders. Big difference in mandatory, voluntary evacuation. I think Archie might have touched on that earlier on the economic impacts of that. We do have some evacuation issues and transportation issues throughout our parish and our region that we all need to be aware of this year. I think we all know about the LaRose link and some of the bridges down the Bayou. Hopefully those will be repaired very soon. Also to note that Highway 90 in New Iberia is down to 1 lane, and that extends for 6 miles, and that's going to go throughout hurricane season. It's going to cause some significant delays if anybody's evacuating to the west. They will make an alternate route using Highway 182 through Franklin, but we do expect that to become congested. And also we have construction on the Highway 20 Bayou Chevelle Bridge. They're going to make that longer and wider. That bridge currently has temporary repairs, and they're working on some lane widening through Chack Bay and Vacherie too there. So hopefully that'll help, but that'll still be a little challenge for hurricane season. So your 2 choices are going to kind of be going northwest. You can choose LA1, go up to the 70 spur. You could head through Raceland and through Highway 90. And if a storm enters the Gulf, evacuation called, various types of shelters may become available. The Department of Health is prepared to open medical needs shelters. The state has identified 9 shelter locations. We open those for those with access and functional needs. Those are for people that may require help with activities of daily life or minor medical care, but not sick enough to be in a hospital. We also do have 2 of those medical needs shelters located within our region. One of those is in Napoleonville, and one of those is in Thibodaux. But it is important to note that we are generally considered an evacuating region. The shelters up north would probably be the first ones to open, and we'd be pushing our patients there. The services offered in our medical needs shelters include triaging, medical assessment and triage, limited pharmacy services of over-the-counter medicines, discharge planning, security meals, behavioral health counseling, transportation, especially for those with dialysis. OPH works with our healthcare coalition. We built an at-risk registry. We use that to pre-identify clients who may need placement in our medical needs shelters. We'll open up our triage lines. We'll advertise that on social media and established media. You can use those triage lines to contact us and those who meet criteria for medical needs shelter admission. Public Health will work with our Office of Emergency Preparedness and ambulance providers for transportation. Medical needs shelters are multi-agency operations. DCFS is the shelter manager. They also provide wraparound services there, while Public Health provides medically trained personnel. And we do this by leveraging our employees that work every day in our public health units. We have one of those in Galliano and also in Thibodaux. And on a day-to-day basis, they offer immunizations, WIC support, women's services such as pregnancy testing, STD testing and birth control, health disparities, opiate services, tuberculosis treatments, and more. So we're looking over those unrecognized populations. If anybody were to be accepted into a shelter, especially a medical needs shelter, it's important that a caregiver would be present. We ask you to have your identification, health insurance, emergency contact information, 5 to 7 days of medications with their original bottles, medical supplies and equipment such as oxygen and wheelchair, personal care items, cell phone charger, and personal items. We do send a reminder that our shelters are shelters of last resort and they're not terribly comfortable. For those that do not require medical assistance, general population shelters can be opened by the parish, staffed by Red Cross, parish employees, or non-governmental organizations. Lafourche Parish does partner with the city of Monroe and can also open local shelters as needed. State can also provide additional capacity through critical transportation needs shelters. And we also offer sex offender shelters up north, unaccompanied minor shelters, and also pet shelters. Pets, they're important to us, especially if we need to evacuate. Everybody wants to know that their pets are well taken care of. We co-locate pet shelters with all of our state shelters. We only allow service animals into our state shelters. That includes dogs and miniature horses. They must be required because of a disability, and they must be able to perform certain tasks. So in closing, we want you to know that we're here for you if you need us. We might not have all the bells and whistles, but we're committed to work together to build a community, a better community. Thank you.
So I'm going to be talking to y'all for the Home Builders Association as well as my company, New Code Shutters. We started 26 years ago, New Code Shutters. We sell shutters in all of Lafourche, Terrebonne, wherever area. Closer to the mic. Okay. So we started in 1998, and I have a friend of mine who has a hurricane shutter business in Florida, came here for Mardi Gras and said, y'all need to sell shutters in Louisiana. So we started our business in 1998. I was also a member of the International Hurricane Protection Association. I was on the board of directors for that for quite some time. Learned all I could about shutters from that. We celebrating 26 years in business, and the shutter industry has always been an industry that is pushing, supporting shutters on openings to cover openings because we know our products work. We were asked to talk about our experiences from Hurricane Ida, and I'm going to tell you that when our shutters are installed and installed properly and closed, they work. They will protect your home. The good news is that they worked. The bad news is some people didn't even close their shutters and they had them. Not sure why, but I had people who told me that they didn't close them because they were helping other people and they didn't get a chance to do their own. They were saying earlier, protect yourself first, tend to yourself first, and then go out and help other people. We sell hurricane rated products, and all of our products are engineered to provide hurricane protection. So we can't use a little small screw like you would hang your hose pipe reel in your house with. We have to use an 8-inch screw that goes through the brick and attaches into the framing of your house. If you have a stucco house, we might use a 3 or a 4-inch screw. So this is all important. It has engineering. It's important that the engineering be followed. There are carpenters and that know how to install shutters, and they will start installing shutters, but then they don't use the proper product. There's no training for people who do hurricane protective products. There's no training in the state of Louisiana, so we can just do whatever we want, and you have to find a contractor who's going to do the work properly and follow the engineering. So speaking of talking from the Home Builders Association point, I believe in the contractor board. So there's a Louisiana contractor board that you can go on their website and look up a contractor and see if they have a license. So you drive around and you see those trailers that say licensed and insured. You can look up their company on the contractor board and see if they really are licensed. No offense against the parish licenses, but a parish license is just a business license to do business. It's not a license to do construction work or that type of work. If you're going to be doing work on somebody's house, you need to have a contractor's license. There's multiple contractor's license. I have a residential home improvement registration, so I can do jobs. If you do a job up to $7,500, you have to have a home improvement registration, which covers you up to a $75,000 job. So, but with my home improvement license, I can't build a house. I can't make structural changes to a house. It's just to make home improvements on a house. And I see a lot of companies that even have home improvement registrations framing up houses, building houses, constructing porches, and doing big things that they're not supposed to be doing with that license. Again, with that licensed and insured, and you see that insured, I've been in business 26 years. We do about 250 jobs a year. Probably 2 homeowners might ask me a year to show them proof of insurance. So nobody's asking for it. And as a public, we don't know that we can ask for that. Insurance agents do not charge a fee to provide a homeowner with proof of insurance for that company. So you can ask anybody doing work on your house, can you provide me with a certificate of insurance? And that certificate of insurance is going to have your name and your address on it where they're going to be doing the work, not a blank insurance. Because just like people used to be able to do with car insurance, they could go buy car insurance, get that insurance card, and when they get stopped by a police officer, show them that card, but they really don't have insurance anymore. But if you get that certificate of insurance from that agent, if that contractor only pays the premium, gets their little certificate, shows you that certificate, and then stops paying the payments, they're not insured any longer, and then they're working on your house and something happens and they're not covered. So if you ask for a certificate of insurance, it'll have your name and address on it to make sure that they stay insured. Another thing that we learned as a result of the hurricane is I had talked about some people that didn't close their shutters. They didn't close their shutters because they couldn't close their shutters. So if you had a car left in a garage, never started it, never did anything with it for a year, when you're going to go to close it or going to start it, it's not going to work. So our shutters require maintenance. I like to tell people when the time changes, do the maintenance on your shutters. And it could be very simple. Some Vaseline on a working part of a shutter will help it to work. A little, not WD-40, but a shutter spray or a silicone spray will help your shutters to work. Because when they are subject to wind and rain and heat and sand, salt spray, they may not work whenever you go to use them. So if you can do some maintenance, that would help. Our company has devised a maintenance hints or suggestions for every product. So whether you bought your shutters from us or you bought your shutters from someone else, we could provide you with the maintenance to-do list so that you know what needs to be done to keep your shutters in good working order. Through the Home Builders Association, we have a group called Disaster Relief, and they come into communities. They think they went to Do Friends once and cooked meals and brought some supplies to various people that come and pick anything up. The same organization had gone to Lake Charles for, it was Hurricane Laura 2 years before or a year before. And when they came out to us, they said, y'all are so much more advanced already than Laura. So you, like everybody's been saying, like our community is so resilient, and we were doing so much more. We had done so much more cleanup and so much more repairs already than anyone else. So that, again, that's something that we should be very proud of. And I think another thing that we are all very proud of is that, and I see it all over, all of our structures that were damaged in the hurricanes, when we rebuilt them all stronger. Everything's so much stronger than it was before. So I think we're gonna be much more prepared than we were. I don't know if I've talked to a few people today that have said that they got mitigation inspections on their houses, which helped with insurance. I paid $250 last week for my own mitigation. I have hurricane protection on every opening of my house. I paid $250 for a mitigation inspection, and I'm gonna save $2,000 on my homeowner's insurance so far for my renewal. So that's something important if you do have opening protection, and you could save some money by, my $250 investment is gonna save me $2,000, so that's pretty good. And that certificate that I got from my wind mitigation inspection lasts me forever. So next time I wanna shop insurances, I have that same certificate. Louisiana right now, if you heard anything about it, is pushing the Fortified program. There's different levels of Fortified program. Like the first level is you have to have a fortified roof, and there's certain parameters of things you have to do to have a fortified roof. And then there's like the roof is the first part, and I think the wall to roof connection and the wall to floor connection is like the second level, and then there's 3 levels. I talked to a customer of mine. We're gonna be doing his opening protection on his fortified roof. He sold his $250,000 house that his insurance was $10,000 a year. He's building a $650,000 house. He's following the Fortified program, level 3, which is the heaviest, the best Fortified program. His insurance is gonna be under $2,000 a year because the insurance companies know it works. So my position is if we could continue to build our houses stronger, we can get more insurance companies here to insure us. If y'all remember, it's not going on this weekend. It hasn't happened since 2018. We used to have remember tax-free to prepare for hurricane season? You remember? It's gone. And there used to be a tax-free before school started, and that's gone. So in 2018, our governor took that away. Also, that same statute said that storm shutter devices would be tax-free all year long, and he took that away. So now, all of you, when you buy storm shutter devices, have to pay sales taxes on them, which we never had to before. I don't know how to get that reinstated, the tax-free, but I would think that if we could sell our products and maybe save some money on tax-free, that maybe more people would buy and our homes could be stronger, and maybe we would get more insurance agents, more insurance companies willing to insure us. That's something that the Home Builders Association has a lobbyist, and I've talked to her about maybe trying to get that. I don't know if I need to talk to some representatives or somebody to get that, but it was actually a law, and I think that if it could get reinstated, it would help us a lot. Let's see what else I got. The Home Builders Association, I have some cards in the back. You can look up the Southeast Louisiana Home Builders Association website anytime. Our website is updated weekly on who our members are. The members are are members of the board of contractors, so they licensed contractors. It'll say on there what license that they hold so that you can check a contractor that's doing work for you to see if they hold in the correct license. And then you can go to the licensing board and check. But our business card has a QR code that you could scan to be able to go directly to our membership. But you can also look it up on the website. So, and we represent Terrebonne, Lafourche, Assumption, and St. Mary parishes. So there are contractors in Lafourche Parish, you know, and even I know after the hurricane, like we do talk about buying local, but I had to get a contractor from Patterson to come and put my roof on because after the hurricane, our members with the Home Builders Association, we couldn't keep up. It was too much. So we did have to we welcomed out of town legitimate contractors to come in and do the work for us. And the contractor board also vets their licensing people. So if you coming from Florida and you're just trying to do work here, you're not going to get a license here. That's why all of those people who are coming in from out of town and taking our money and running with it, if you stay with a contractor that's here, then you're less likely to have that happen. So let's see what else I got. So I think that's about it that I had that I wanted to go over. Again, I think that we're going to be much more prepared if we have another hurricane because I know that we are all building back much stronger than we were before. So that's all I have.
So typically when I'm in front of an audience, I'm giving a sales speech, right? My name's Doug Benoit. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Dufresne Building Materials. So I was told to tone it down and not give a sales spiel here, right? So basically, I just want to tell you kind of what we've done to address going through Ida as far as a company and the infrastructure that we've put in place to support the community, the communities that we serve, right? And I'd have to say the word of the day is probably resilient, right? And I love that word. So about 3 days after Hurricane Ida, T. Paul Dufresne called me and said, Doug, I need you down in Cutoff. I was managing our store in Belle Chase for about a year prior to that. And he said, I need you to come run my yard. And I said, wait, what? I said, I'm the store manager. You want me to come run the yard? He said, you don't understand. It's gone. So it was totally gone, right? We had to take everything, push it out into the side yard, and basically salvage what we could. So I said, sure, I'll be there in an hour. So I went down there. You know, and the first thing I noticed was that everybody coming through, that's when I met Jeray. They had already set up. They were giving things out. Everybody coming through, even though they just lost everything, right? They were still in good spirits. And that spoke volumes about the community down here and made me be proud to be a part of the community and definitely part of the company I work for, obviously. So as of Monday, we're going to be opening our 10th operation in Hammond, Louisiana. Yeah, it's exciting, right? It's exciting. And I want to thank you all for having me here because today I'm supposed to be sitting in Hammond counting inventory, so I got out of it, right? Thank you guys, appreciate it. So I'm going to be reading verbatim, right? I sat down because I thought it was important to kind of let you all know what infrastructures we have in place to support the community here in the event that this ever, God forbid, occurs again, right? Hopefully we never see it again, but you never know, right? But we did address it. We have a lot of infrastructure in place. We've got 85 service vehicles on the road running 24/7 basically that can all be sent back down to Cutoff, Thibodaux, Luling, wherever the disaster is, right? So I'll get into that now. And pardon me, I will be reading kind of verbatim on it. So when Hurricane Ida struck, it left behind a trail of destruction, as you all know. Homes were damaged, infrastructure's crippled, and the landscape of everyday life was altered pretty much beyond recognition. And in these trying times, the immediate priority is always to ensure safety and provide relief as the initial chaos subsides. Monumental task of rebuilding then begins, and this is where our commitment to our community shines through. So our company's mission extends far beyond the business of lumber and sales. At our core, we're dedicated to the people we serve and the communities we're a part of. So when disaster strikes, our employees are among the first to step up, ready to lend a hand and support recovery efforts. We do understand that in the face of such adversity, It's not just about supplying materials, but about rebuilding lives and restoring hope. So one of the critical ways that we assist in disaster recovery is through the rapid mobilization of all of our resources. Hurricanes, by their nature, can leave certain areas completely cut off and in desperate need of supplies. Dufresne has developed a robust logistics network that allows us to move resources quickly and efficiently from one location to another. And this ensures that the hardest hit areas receive materials they need without delay. And we did that. We had to get resources from, I think at the time we had 7 stores, and we shipped employees from all 7 stores here to help. We shipped delivery vehicles here to help. It was a monumental undertaking. It really was. But I was very proud of the company because nobody hesitated. Didn't matter what it cost. It was all about supporting our community, right? That's what we're all about. So in the immediate aftermath of a hurricane, we prioritize transportation of essential supplies such as plywood, framing, lumber, and roofing materials. These are all crucial for making emergency repairs and stabilizing structures. Our fleet of trucks and our partnerships with transportation companies enable us to reroute shipments swiftly and get these materials to where they're needed most. This agility in logistics is a cornerstone of our disaster response strategy. Our efforts don't stop at logistics, however. We actively collaborate with local authorities, relief organizations, such as Bless Your Heart, and there were several others that stepped up. T-Paul even had guys out of Missouri, Kansas. There was several people that came and set up in our parking lot. They cooked, they gave out supplies. I mean, it's amazing how everybody came together at that point. These partnerships amplify our impact and ensure a well-rounded approach to the recovery efforts. By working together, we can address diverse needs of the community more effectively. One of the most rewarding aspects of our work is seeing the tangible difference it makes. In past disasters, we provided materials to rebuild schools, community centers, and homes. Each project represents a step towards normalcy for the people affected. The gratitude and resilience, is that word again? Resilience. The gratitude and resilience of these communities inspire us to continue our efforts with renewed vigor. I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight the unwavering commitment of our employees. So they're at the heart and soul of our company, and their dedication to the community is truly remarkable. All of our team members live in the areas we serve, and when disaster strikes, they're not just helping customers, they're also helping neighbors, friends, and family. Our employees volunteer their time and skills to support recovery efforts, whether it's assisting in cleanup, helping to distribute supplies, or offer their expertise in construction. The contributions are actually invaluable. They embody the spirit of solidarity and compassion that defines our company culture. It is their tireless work that transforms our resources into real-world solutions. So at the core of our operations is a commitment to providing the best possible customer service. In the wake of a natural disaster, this commitment takes on even greater significance. We understand that our customers are dealing with immense stress and uncertainty, and our goal is to be a reliable partner they can count on during these challenging times, period. We, at that point, just become a partner to help out everybody that we can possibly help out. Our involvement doesn't end once the immediate crisis is over. We're then committed to supporting long-term recovery and building resilience for the future. This includes offering resources and guidance on rebuilding to withstand future storms. We provide education materials on hurricane-resistant construction practices and work with the builders to ensure that new structures are more durable and sustainable. In addition, we invest in community programs that enhance preparedness and resilience, such as what's going on today. Thank you guys, by the way, for this. It's fantastic. So by sponsoring local training sessions, supporting emergency planning initiatives, and engaging in public awareness campaigns, we help equip communities with the knowledge and tools they need to face future challenges with confidence. So in conclusion, our company's role in disaster recovery is multifaceted and deeply rooted in our commitment to the communities we serve. From the swift mobilization of resources and strategic partnership to the unwavering dedication of our employees and our focus on customer service, every aspect of our operation is geared towards making positive impacts. So as I said, we now have 10 yards with which to service our communities. And all resources would be put into wherever the next disaster strikes. Hopefully we don't see anything, but you never know, right? So I did hear that Mr. Henderson's here. He's going to probably be speaking on the fortified program. I think that's something you guys really should pay attention to. It can save a lot of money on insurance premiums. They have a lot more information, but check with your contractors. Obviously we can give you guys information on that as well, but doing a fortified home can save up to 52% on a premium. It's plain and simple. And as I understand, there's more funds coming into play next month, I believe. Is that right, Dual? So look into that. I think that's something that can help you, and come in and experience what we affectionately call the Dufresne difference at any of our yards, and tell them Doug sent you. Thanks.
All right, so this is my time. My name's Travis Terrebonne. I have a company called Gen Gators Power Systems. I want to talk to you a little bit about generator safety. I have some of my team members in the back corner. I'm not here to solicit my business. I'm not going to talk to you about professional generator contractors. I'm going to talk to you about how to be a professional generator owner. You have responsibilities as an owner, whether you own a home standby, a portable, a diesel, or whatever generator you use. Portable generators are the #1 cause of carbon monoxide deaths in the country. So it's very important that you pay attention about generator use, because a lot of the issues with generators come with unrealistic expectations, not necessarily a quality of product. So first I'll go into some nomenclature. There's a reason it's called a standby generator. It is not designed as a prime power source. Hurricane Ida in some places was 48 days without power. An air-cooled gas generator is not designed to run for 48 days contiguously without a break. It would be the same situation if you parked your lawnmower up against one of Neil's good lawnmowers up against a brick wall and put the pedal to the metal. There's a reason why there's a gas tank capacity on it. It's going to run out before you burn it up. It's not designed to go 24 hours a day. So with gaseous units, portables, liquid cooled, air cooled, Generac, Briggs & Stratton, Cummins, Kohler. Listen, the list goes on and on. I'm gonna give you some key tips on how to maintain yours. Portables. When you run a portable generator, you can go on YouTube right now and find the really, really dumbed down version of don't run the generator in your living room. Okay, I'm not gonna bore you to death. Don't run it in your garage. You could go on Zillow right now. There's a house in Houma that's for sale that has the generator that's mounted in the garage and ducted outward. Okay, I'm not going to talk about those things. That's enough on what not to do with your generator. In terms of portables, what you have to know is fuel storage. If you have a gasoline generator, where you store your fuel is important. If you allow condensation because the fuel is sweating, you're going to cause problems with your portable. How long can you run your portable? The gas tank that's on your portable generator is not metered in gallons. It's metered in hours of runtime. So the tank is not designed for you to keep filling it up over and over and over while the generator's running. When that thing runs out of gas, it's telling you it's time to shut me down and give me a break and check the oil. When do you check the oil? You check the oil when you could touch the exhaust with your bare hand and it not burn you. Still gonna be warm, but you won't find that in any owner's manual. I just so happen to have about 20 years of oil and gas experience with engines. I've done this my whole career. You're not gonna find these tips in a manual, but it's important that when you shut your unit down, you wait until you can touch the exhaust manifold with your bare hand before you check the oil. Even on your home standby, raise your hand if you have an air-cooled natural gas home generator. If you have an air-cooled natural gas home generator, the #1 issue with failures on those generators are unrealistic expectations, undersized, and not being properly installed. It's not the gas pressure. South Coast Gas is here. We have met with South Coast Gas. We're talking about fortifying. They've done a tremendous job with the gas grid, but when Hurricane Ida showed up, people were complaining their generator wasn't running right because it was low gas pressure. Well, there was trees that uprooted gas lines that were just openly dumping gas out into the atmosphere. That was part of the reason why you didn't have gas pressure. We also have gas grids that were never designed for home generators. Everybody and their mama has a home generator now. And if your mama don't, please go see my girls in the back corner. They'll take care of you. But everybody has a home generator. The BTU consumption on a home generator is 5 times what your home was prior to you installing the generator. They've done tremendous work. Atmos, TPCG, both provide gas for Terrebonne. They've upgraded lines to polypropylene from cast iron. The pressure is there. The responsibility and expectations from the homeowner is not. This thing is not designed as a prime power source. Your home natural gas air-cooled generator, 72 hours, you need to shut it down. If it's run 72 hours, you got an endless fuel tank. The fuel source is not going to tell you when to shut it down. You have to shut it down. And the same scenario, if you can touch the exhaust, it's time to check the oil. Don't check it right when you shut it down. You ever pulled up in your driveway from a long trip with your car and you get out and you hear that little popping noise, pick, 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 under the hood? That's the oil dripping down into the crank, from the crankcase into your oil pan. There's no oil pan on a natural gas generator unless it's a liquid cooled. So you have to allow the oil to regulate before you check the oil. Liquid cooled. I know everybody after the storm, now all of a sudden we got generator experts everywhere telling you, you need to buy a liquid cooled. You know what? If money's no object to you and you want a liquid cooled, go ahead and buy a liquid cooled. But even that only has about 5 days capacity of runtime on it. It is a standby generator. It's not designed to run for a week, 2 weeks. Sorry, that was the last timer. It's not designed to do that. Even a diesel unit, 250 hours, you need to shut it down, check the oil, change the oil. Let me back up a little bit because I'm trying to get through this because I see we kind of losing some of the crowd. But 72 hours on an air-cooled, you need to change your oil. You don't have to change the filter, but you do need to change the oil. Even if it's synthetic, I don't care what the owner's manual tells you. I'm telling you what thousands of generator repairs have shown me. You need to change the oil every 72 hours if you're running it on continuous use. How am I qualified to say this? So Hurricane Ida, you've heard over and over and over since 2021 how significant of an event it was. Well, home generators didn't even become a thing until 2005 after Katrina. A Generac 20 kW in 2004, you couldn't even fit it in the bed of your truck and you probably couldn't afford it. Now they're getting smaller, more compact, and more powerful. And guess what that does? That creates more heat and hazard. So maintenance is at an all-time importance. If you do not change the oil and air filter in your car, will it not burn more gas? So you have a responsibility as a consumer that South Coast Gas is not responsible to provide gas for you for your improper maintenance. So make sure that you are properly maintaining your generator. Air filter, oil changes are done throughout the course of the year so that when an extended outage hits, you're not the reason that your neighbor doesn't have gas pressure. Secondly, permitting. If you have a generator right now and you did not get a permit to install it, that's not going to be good news for you in the future. We have met with South Coast Gas, with Atmos, again with TPCG. There's 18,000 customers of South Coast Gas and 4,000 reported generators. I can guarantee you there's more than that. And what happens when you don't get a permit is you don't get the right size meter and you don't get the right size code regulations installed with the generator. So you are going to kill someone. Hopefully it's not you and your family. When you have the improper meter size, you create the heat of combustion increases because you're reducing the fuel to a gas engine. And if your exhaust manifold is glowing cherry red because you didn't get a permit, again, you're probably going to kill somebody. Hopefully it's not your neighbor. So make sure that you're getting a permit. Self-report. If you never told South Coast Gas that you have a generator, pick up the phone and call them and let them know you have a generator. Do it right, because if eventually, I can tell you, in not just South Coast Gas, I'm not going to speak just for them, this is across the country, especially across the state. Gas companies are concerned about the gas supply because of the improper use of the units and the unrealistic customer expectations. I don't have to tell you that if you live in a 3,500 square foot house and you have a 20 kW generator and 3 air conditions, you are doing the gas grid no justice. You are burning way too much fuel to do something the wrong way. You are going to cause problems. So when the permit guy comes knocking at your door, be someone who cares about the community, the neighbor, the gas grid, the lives of the people around you. This is the #1 cause of carbon monoxide deaths in the country. Pick up the phone and be responsible. See, I had a couple notes I wanted to touch on before. I had a really cool video presentation for y'all, but we didn't get the video set up. So I talked to you about service intervals. I want you to be a professional owner. The last few things that I saw, if you have a generator, it is designed to run with the panels on. Do not take the panels off because you think you are cooling the unit off. There's ducted airflow that is designed to specifically run through that unit the right way. I saw people took the panels off. I saw people put tents over them. I saw people put sprinklers on them. You are not helping yourself. You're hurting yourself. Leave the generator alone. If it's overheating, it's telling you you are not a professional generator owner. Shut me down and give me a break. If you put a fan on the unit, you're not helping it. A box fan is going to catch fire. That's not designed to be close to a generator. If you have shrubs, trees, or bushes around it, go home today and trim them. Make sure that you don't have obstructions around the airflow of that unit. So, again, I could go on for days and days about what not to do. But I'm going to back up a second ago and say that I represent Kohler on a national level. Kohler came to the table right after Hurricane Ida and called and said, hey, we want to know what you guys are seeing out there after such an extended outage and what we can do to help. So we are under NDA, which is non-disclosure agreement with the design team designing the new units that are coming out that are going to be designed to run cooler, longer, stronger, and on even less gas pressure than ever before. The average gas meter right now, you need about 7 to 8 PSI to run your generator. Kohler's new units are going to be able to run at 3.5. So if your neighbor is telling you you shouldn't get a natural gas generator because we can't supply the gas, do not listen to your neighbor. He probably put a sprinkler on his generator. So listen, there is a responsible way to do it. If you want to do it correct, start by being a professional yourself, calling a professional contractor. I'm going to do something different. My company name's on here, but I'll list out everybody in the parish who sells natural gas generators. If you're looking at a koozie, Renovation sells them. Dufresne Building Materials sells them. Several electrical contractors sell them. You don't have to buy from me, but you have to buy from a professional. If you think permits are strong now, keep doing it the wrong way, and they will get worse and worse and worse. So if you want a generator, get a permit through a professional who will give you turnkey service, who will maintain the product. They are financeable. I'm not going to tell you to go finance. I'm not a finance expert, but there are people in here for that. I'm not going to tell you you should go finance an outdoor kitchen or a Go Devil or a four-wheeler. My opinion, you should probably pay cash for that. But if there was ever something you could buy for your home that was justifiably financed, it would be a generator. The warranties are out of this world. They're 10 years now. You could finance it probably up to 10 years if you would choose to and pay the lowest payment possible or go 0%. But the #1 reason, and I thought about it when Jure was up here, that people don't think about when buying a generator is it will restore your way of life faster and allow you to become a professional citizen of the parish because you have power. So we harbored about 18 different people in our house because we had a generator, and it took me about 48 hours to get out into the public and help because I had it. So it's not just about saving your deer meat or, keeping your beer cold to have a hurricane party. You never know what's going to hit us and who you might have to house and who you can get out there and help if you don't have to worry about hot water, cold AC. Secondly, when the storm does hit your home, and you can talk to Mike Martin about this, the faster you can get those HVAC units running, the least opportunity you have to pull all the sheetrock out of your house and gut your walls. Allow the system to dehumidify where you can't run an HVAC unit without a generator. So if there's any generator questions you have, hey, there's tons of professionals in the parish, Lafourche and Terrebonne. You don't have to buy from me, but I'm telling you that I am speaking on a national level on this to design units to benefit you, because this is the craziest part of the country in the world when it comes to generators. Most other areas run these things off of propane. If you have a natural gas generator, you can also run it off of propane, but you need a professional to convert it. If it's a newer unit, we could do it with a computer now. But if you have a natural gas, it is also a propane generator as well. The last thing I'll say is, as we design the new equipment and talk about what's best for this area, I just want to say, you know, Doug talked about resilience. I'm going to get off the generator topic for a second because I could talk all day on that. But Robbie called me, and so I want you to think back to where you were after Ida, whether you suffered or you didn't suffer, and I want you to think about, or any point in your life where your back was up against the wall. Robbie called me about 30 days ago, or maybe a little bit longer, and said, "Hey man, I got this idea for this event. I talked about this earlier." Well, he said this after losing a job that he had been in for a long, long time, back up against the wall resilience, and said, "Man, I'm your hands and feet. Let's put this event together. Maybe we could get a few people to show up, and we could teach them a thing or two about how to prepare for a storm and how to recover from a storm." In the process, because he gave his heart and soul to this event and to all of you, I saw something in him that I hadn't seen before, so I offered him a job. I said, "Man, you got the gusto. You got something inside of you that I haven't seen before." So offered him a job. So check this out. In the last 30 days, not only has he lost his oil field job, put this event together, came to work in an industry he knew nothing about, and said, "I don't know anything about generators other than the fact that you sold me mine." I said, "You don't have to be a generator expert to work for me. You got to be a relationship builder. You got to be able to walk into somebody's house and tell them the freaking truth and tell them that this is not going to work for you. And the days of a cheap job is over. We're going to do it right. We'll be here before, during, and after." And in the process of all of that, he broke his own sales record week over week over week over the last month. So thank you. So if you need anything with a generator, you need anything having to do with crisis management, you need a shoulder to cry on and an ear to listen to, this guy is the man for the job. So thank you for putting this together. I appreciate it. Thank all of y'all for coming out. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gosep, Mr. Jacques Thibodeau with Gosep. Thank y'all.
Lafourche Parish is it's my home parish. So Archie told me that I had to tell a joke before I got here, and before I started to talk. So I said, okay, no problem. After Hurricane Ida, Archie and I were driving, and I blew through the first red light. And he said, "Hey, you just ran that red light right there, and the sheriff's probably going to catch you." And I said, "Well, I got a cousin, and they drive through the red lights all the time over here." And so I got to the next red light, and I blew through that one too. And he said, "Man, I'm telling you, you just went through another red light. You better be careful. The sheriff's going to catch you." Well, I got up to the next light, and it was green. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, my cousin may be coming this way." So, but look, I want to tell you, thank you for being here. I'm the director of the Governor's Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness. I'm a Lafourche Parish boy. I was raised in Lafourche Parish, been here the last 45 years. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about, this is my home parish. For Hurricane Ida, I was with the city of Thibodaux. I'm a retired Louisiana National Guardsman, 31 years, retired U.S. Marshal, 28 years. And I'm most proud that I spent the last 5 years with the city of Thibodaux in my hometown. So when they asked me to apply for this job and I put in for it, I said, yeah, I'm all in. The more I can help people, the better I am. So I just want to talk about where we are as we approach hurricane season. You're going to get a lot of things thrown at you. Okay, we have a website called getagameplan.org. Okay, that's probably one of the most comprehensive websites you'll see. Getagameplan.org. And what it's designed to do is help you prepare for a storm. So there's a couple of things. The first thing is we're going around, it's the first day of hurricane season. Well, we're telling everyone, make sure you have not only an evacuation plan, but a shelter in place plan. In case you don't have the opportunity to leave, that you have a plan. So this website has templates to show you how to develop a plan. So the first thing you have to do is you have to have an emergency kit. Again, it'll have a template to show you what an emergency kit looks like, and you have to make a decision when that state and local officials start talking about evacuations. You want to try to get out early. So what do you need with a plan? It's got to take care of your business, it's got to take care of your family, and it's got to take care of your pets. So we tell everyone, develop a plan, build a kit, okay, and make sure that you pay attention to those local officials and stay informed. What you'll see is, President Chasson talked about voluntary evacuations, right? Y'all have heard that. He talked about mandatory evacuations, which is the next step. And then what you have for Southeast Louisiana, New Orleans area, is you have that contraflow. What we tell everyone now is the way construction is going west to east, we recommend everyone go north. You have an opportunity to get that I-55 corridor, that I-59 corridor, or that Highway 90 to 49, go north. Because what's happened over the last several years is these storms have developed rapidly over the course of 72 hours. You don't get 5 days anymore. You're going to get 3 days to go. And if you evacuate west or east, there's a good chance you could go directly into the path of the storm. So if you can hit I-49, moving north through Lafayette, or I-55 through Hammond, or I-59 through Slidell, that's what we recommend. One of the things that they asked us about is, what's your biggest concern? I said, I love Louisiana a lot. We're a resilient people, but boy, are we stubborn, right? We don't want to leave, okay? And we always say in emergency management, I'd rather have you leave and say, I'm glad I did, than say I didn't leave and I wish I would have. And those of us that stuck around through Hurricane Ida, you know, God bless you, because it was tough. That was one of the worst storms, and I've been through just about every one we've had since 1984. So that's all what I want to tell you. Just want to get to our website, say getagameplan.org. I can tell you, you got a Bayou boy running emergency management for the state. I understand storms. I love Lafourche Parish. I love our resiliency. I'm proud to be a Lafourche Parish resident, and I want to tell you thank you for this quick 5 minutes to talk. And, I hope I never see any of you all the way through November, right? Because if I do, it's probably having a bad day, all right? So look, good luck to you, but get a game plan and make sure you're prepared. And I'll tell you, I'll leave you with one point. I got your back, okay? And I'll cover you through thick and thin. And I'm happy to be at GOSEP, and it's good to see a bunch of smiling Cajuns down here in the Bayou region. So love you guys. Y'all be safe, and I hope y'all have a great hurricane safe where everybody's safe, okay? Thank you very much.
So I'm also a Lafourche Parish kid. Went to Central Lafourche. Go Trojans. Look, I know you guys have been hurt out. How many of you out there had insurance issues after the storm, after Ida? Yeah. How many of you lost your companies? How many of you had problems getting your company to pay for their problems, their issues? I know. I've talked to many people. I've talked to a lot of people in this room. I came down here after Ida, and I want to make sure that we're getting ahead of the game, right? You can't hear me, okay. I'm a soft voice for such a big guy. All right, I want to make sure we're getting ahead of the game. Look, these insurance contracts are complicated. You gotta read the policy. Every time you get something in the mail, you gotta read it. Don't just throw it on the back of the shelf. Don't just forget it in the pile of the other bill. You gotta read it because something may have changed in that policy. You have to be prepared every year, every hurricane season, for what may or may not happen. It's an insurance contract. Do not think it's anything other. These agents, they will sell you these products, they will talk to you, they will help you to understand those products, but you need to know where to find that information when something happens. The time to read your policy is not after the hurricane happened. Because if you read it after the hurricane happened, you're emotional, you've lost stuff, you may have lost family members. It is not time to read that particular document. So you have to be ahead. Know where to find that document. Some little tips. Know where to find it. Know what your deductible is. I've had so many people tell me, I didn't know I had a hurricane deductible like that. I'm like, well, where have you been for the past 15 years? because it's been there. Know where you're going, get that plan, know what you need to take with you. Have a go bag, know what type of medicines you're gonna take. If you're on Medicare, understand where you can get your medicine when you get to where you're going, all right? It is imperative that you understand these little things. What did you buy after the last hurricane? Do you have an inventory of all the stuff you bought? There's an app on this beautiful cell phone, this little computer here, wherever I put it in my pocket because I can never find it. This is one of your most powerful tools you're ever gonna get. It's called NAIC Inventory app. Go to that website and get this app. You can put every piece of thing that you own in your house and take pictures of it and put it in this proper place. Know where it is, because after the storm, the company's gonna ask you for what? Pictures. I don't know, before I didn't just walk around my house taking pictures of stuff I bought. Now, I'm like, hey, when you take it out of the box, let's take a picture of the serial number. Because you need to know what you have. You can't just go gut your house after the storm immediately. You have to call the insurance company. You have to give them an opportunity to tell you what to do. Take pictures. If you take pictures before, every spring, after every Christmas holiday, when you bought all these nice, beautiful new toys, the new TVs that my wife won't let me buy, the new radios and the video games for your kids and the computers and all this nice, beautiful stuff, take a picture of it. Because when the storm comes through, and it's not if the storm comes through, it's when the storm comes through, you have to know what you lost. When it's piled up on the curb, it ain't the time to take a picture of it. It's gonna be a time to take a picture of it when it's out there, but before then, you need to know what you have. Take the little time and the time now when it's blue skies out to make sure you know what you have. Make sure your agent knows what you have. Make sure that you keep that somewhere. My brother, my brother has a copy of my policy at his house. I don't know why I said to my brother in Houston, because he's probably gonna go underwater before I do. But it made me feel good that he has a copy of my policy in Houston. Put it on the cloud, put it on the web. Understand that after the storm, there are obligations that you have. You have to mitigate damages, i.e., if you have a hole in your roof that can be fixed after the hurricane, once it's safe, do it. Because in your insurance contract, it says you have to mitigate or fix that, because everything that gets wet after you didn't fix it, it's not gonna get paid for, right? Little things they didn't tell you when you got the policy. You have to know these things. And reading that policy is important. Another thing you wanna make sure you do when you have a plan, know how you're gonna get there. Where are you gonna be? Who have you talked to? Because remember, after the storm, everybody moved out to every place up north. There were no hotel rooms because everything, you ended up elsewhere. Just kind of start thinking about that now. I pray to God that we don't have another storm like Ida. But it's inevitable we're going to have another storm. So if you're prepared, when it's time to recover, and I still believe the best way and the easiest way to recover is to have insurance. Because if you have, the reason why you have insurance is because if you were independently wealthy, I'm not independently wealthy, I need insurance because they take a piece of the burden off of me. But you need to know how to talk to them once you get damaged. You're going to some yahoo walking up here from Buck Oats, Oklahoma, and you're going to tell you down here in Lafourche Parish what type of window you're going to put in your house. When that window in Oklahoma or Wyoming is going to rot to pieces in about 6 months here. We know that, right? Because we're from here. You got to make them know it. If you have a problem, the first place you go is not to the attorney. Some cases you're going to have to sue the company. I'm not saying that you don't have to. Some cases you will have to. But the first place you need to be at to call is the Department of Insurance, because we're free. Free. We will come down here. I will come down here personally. I will send my people here personally to talk to you, help you fill out a complaint if it's necessary, help you to talk to people you need to talk to, put in a phone call to the company, have that company call you, because you have already paid for their service. And they have an obligation and a contract that they sign with you so that they can take care of that just in case. So don't just go out and hire an attorney unless you absolutely positively have to, because it's probably going to delay your recovery. A little story, and I'm going to tell you, is one of those stories that kind of got me. I was down in Port-Fouchon after talking to a bunch of people, and I'm like, having this little conversation, and I saw this lady, she wasn't really paying attention. I asked her a question. I was like, you know, I see you here, you came in, I'm so happy to see you here, but it seems like you're not very interested in what I have to say. Not that I'm a very interesting guy, I'm just saying. But she goes, well, I already had all this stuff taken care of. You know, my lawyer's gonna take care of everything. It's like, okay. So let me ask you a question. How much is your lawyer gonna charge you? 25% of the disputed portion of my claim. I said, wow, okay, that's okay, 25%, I get it. I said, let me ask you a question. What's the disputed portion of your claim? She said, I don't know. I said, did you file a claim? She said, no. My lawyer's gonna take care of all that for me. So what's the disputed portion of our claim, y'all? All of it. Because I'm a lawyer, and I'm gonna tell you, it's all of it. So I'm gonna get 25% of everything you would have gotten, even if you would have gotten it without me. Then I asked another question. I said, what's your total insured value of your house? And before I could get the rest of the words out of my mouth, she says, if he gets me $100,000, I'll gladly give him 25. I said, I don't know how you rebuild your house if you have $100,000 worth of damage and you gave away $25,000. That math don't compute, even down on the Bayou. And she says, well, it'll just be something that I have to deal with. So I look at her, she handed me her deck page, I look at it, she said, I said, your house is worth $147, well, your total insured value is $147,000 to rebuild. If you had $100,000 worth of damage, which percentage of damage do you think that is? Over 70%, 75, almost 80%? She would have gotten $147,000 without even any involvement. You gotta know these things. Don't just take their word for it. Ask questions. When the insurance company tell you something, I want it in writing. When you talk to the insurance company, you put it in writing. Have a conversation, send them an email right behind it. You suspect fraud, contractor fraud, the adjuster's defrauding you, we have an outlet. Our fraud guy over there, his name is Nathan Strebeck. He is the Deputy Commissioner of Fraud at the Department of Insurance. He will send his investigators down here. We want to make sure that you get every penny that you require to rebuild your home. But you got to know what the rules are, because there are always rules. Anybody have any question for me? I'll take any question. Yes?
NAIC site.
Oh, go ahead. So you just don't go on the site. Go to your the Apple App Store. It's on the App Store and it's on Google Play. NAIC Home Inventory app. Go to your App Store and go to your Google Play. It is a great app. I use it. All my friends use it. Miss Dina uses it. So, guys, yes. Use that tool. It's a tool. You can put all that information in there. So if you have damage and the company wants to see what it looked like before, what do? Shoot them an email. Here are the pictures of before. Here are the pictures of after. You have any more questions? Right? So those are things you want to make sure that you're doing. You're preparing yourselves, preparing your family, preparing your friends, the people who are, you know, are not here. Make sure they get it. If you have an issue with the company and you talk to me and your friend and your family members are having that same issue, give them my card. right? Yeah, I've talked to more Miss Dina's friends than anybody in the history of Lafourche Parish. But, you know, we want to make sure that we take people, and ladies and gentlemen, being from this area, the people here are super sweet and nice. Sometimes we're too nice to the point where we get taken advantage of. Don't be that nice sometimes. I had a lady right down in Golden Meadow. She says, you know, baby, if they take care of me, I'm okay, but I'm gonna be fine. She's living in a tent inside of her house with her roof blown off, and she wants everybody else to be taken care of. I said, well, you know what? I'm gonna be your mouthpiece this week, and I'm not gonna be very nice to the company, because you need to be taken care of also. And if they're giving you a runaround, let us help you. And we were able to help her. I can't move all the things, but I can get some things done. Everything in my power I'm going to do. The new commissioner, Commissioner Temple, is the same way. He wants to make sure we're doing what's right and what's possible to get everything taken care of. So if you have a question, you have an issue, make sure you reach out to the Department of Insurance. You may be able to talk to a lawyer, but make sure you do everything you need to do first before you get to the lawyer. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Yes, sir. You have a question for me, anybody? Look, thank you guys for having me. It's great being back home. I like to drive around. I drove by Central. I was like, wow, look how big the school has gotten. I remember the Lockport swimming pool. I used to ride my dirt bike through the cane field to get here because I didn't want to get pulled over by the sheriff on the street. I see some of y'all did the same thing, right? Right, I drive up from racing, I'm coming across the highway, and I'm like, let's look for cars, jump a ditch, get over here and go to the swimming pool. Had a great time here growing up here. So I love this place. I love the people here. I love the food. You can't tell. Thank you guys so much for having me. If you have any questions, my information is out there. I have some information on the table over on the side. And you know, if y'all know Miss Dina, she has all my numbers. So definitely get that information. If you have or you suspect fraud, make sure you reached out. And make sure you take an inventory of everything you have. So thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for listening. And do not hesitate to contact us. We will call you back. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. This was put together, like Travis said, 30 days. It was a little overwhelming and humbling how many people actually just said yes and committed to it. Archie being one of them. I'm not sure if he's still here. Chet. One person I want to thank big time is sitting over there. Major Day. He does not get enough recognition for everything he does and how much he's committed to helping this community. We thought outside the box a little bit on storm preparedness, because what you're thinking about is rebuilding your home. If you look to this side of the room, there's nothing but mental health awareness and everything that's needed past the storm to help people get by. You want to take over?
So like Travis said, my husband lost his job. The company he worked for had to file bankruptcy, and he had never in his entire life been without a job. We have 3 kids, so we were kind of stuck in a boat of what are we gonna do? And we just decided to pray. And we looked at each other and said, we've made it this far. Our company we decided to make is Harper Oilfield, and it's in memory of our daughter we lost. And yeah, we just decided to go with it. And he came up with the idea for this Hurricane Expo and contacted Travis, and Travis was like, that's a good idea for you. So it got thrown back on him, and he's like, well, we've never done anything like this. And I said, well, I've never done anything like this either. So we kind of, like Travis always says, hit the ground, boots on the ground. We met with all of the people that are here today to make sure that we had insured licensed contractors who were there for the community, who's gonna stay here for the community. God just put it on our hearts that it was something that we needed to do. And yeah, we're just like everybody else. You know, we're no famous people. We literally are so humbled just by everybody showing up today. We really wanted to help, and this turnout is amazing. It really is, and we appreciate everybody for helping out, for donating, everyone for coming and listening to what everybody had to say, and we hope that you got some good information out of it. So that's the gist of what's happening here today. Just trying to get the community stronger.
So I want to thank everybody for coming out. Hey, I promise we will be more prepared and better organized next year. Like we keep talking about slapping this together quickly. I hope you guys got good information. I know I did. If you don't have a plan, take an opportunity to walk around, meet all the contractors, do a little making the veillée, and thank y'all. Enjoy the rest of y'all Saturday and this weekend. God bless you during this hurricane season. Be safe on the road.